Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guests today are Jason Wright and AJ Plummer. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hi.
Glad to be on. Thank you for having us, Dennis.
Jason is a regular guest on the Culture Crawl. AJ's a first-timer, but Jason usually appears in his guise as CEO of the History Center. But today, we're talking about your avocation and people who know that you're a talented piano player and have gigged around the area ever since you moved here. But for those who don't, yeah, we're talking to Jason the musician today. Welcome.
Thank you. It's actually how I started my life, as a gigging musician.
You two have a gig coming up at the Opus Concert Café on the 14th and the 15th. Jason will play and AJ will sing. So I guess before we start, tell me a little bit how this duo came together.
I guess I'd like to dive in right there.
I think you should take it. Yeah,
because it was my fault. As I stepped away from gigging when my kids were starting to get into show choir and swimming, and I became that dad. And so I just didn't, my weekends weren't my own. So I stepped away. And once we became empty nesters, I figured, oh, I'll get all these calls for gigs. And nothing was happening. And I was starting to feel sorry for myself. And, did I miss this entire window? And then it dawned on me, wait a minute, why don't I make my own gigs? This makes perfect sense. And as I was thinking about it, I said, who would I like to work with? Who would be the person who blows my mind every time they sing? And AJ's face just came into my mind's eye. Absolutely.
Right.
I met AJ when he was working for Westminster Presbyterian Church, and I was leading sort of a blended band there. And every once in a while, he stepped down into the pit with us, and he blew me away each and every time. And one day I gave AJ a call and said, I've got an idea. Can we meet for coffee? So we met at his work, actually. And it was the cafeteria over at Cornell. And I proposed this idea of, what if we produce a show of the tunes you would love to sing? AJ, take it from there.
Yeah, so this partnership sort of grew out of that impetus, and every show's been a little bit different. So this is our fourth one. It started as sort of a ragtag band of eclectic tunes that I've sung or enjoyed over the years. Everything from Dixieland to American jazz standards to, the Great American Songbook, up through Willie Nelson and John Denver. And we've done a number of country songs as well, which I never in a million years thought I'd find myself singing, but here I am. And each one's a little bit different. Each show's a little bit different. So I put a lot of time and effort into really sort of shaping the artistic direction of the show and trying to come up with a clear vision for what I want the show to say overall. And to the point where after every show, I turn to Jason and say, okay, I quit now because I've said what I had to say. And then, a year and a half later, here we are again. And I find something else like, oh, actually, there's more to be said. So that's kind of how this works. This show is titled In My Imagination. And sort of the central conceit, I guess, if you will, is that it has very little to do with my imagination. The concept for this show started about 10 years ago with a book I read. It was a very popular book, actually. It was called Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. And he sort of theorizes that a lot of our interactions are these collective imaginations that we jointly agree to and believe in. And so this show is really about that. It's really about the collective imagined realities, is what he calls it, that we have as human beings. And so this is going to look at everything from love to starting over to what the world could look like if only we put our minds and hearts into it. So it's an eclectic review that we weave a lot of stories and background into both the music and the premise of the show.
Jason mentioned that, AJ, you were working at Cornell when you first met. You're talking to us now from your home in Colorado. So we mentioned Jason's day job. What's your day job?
Yeah, so I run the alumni and advancement office at Cornell College. So a little bit of a different tack than what I originally did. So I'm a classically trained singer and musician. And so my undergrad was at UNI, my grad school was at Iowa. I grew up in Eastern Iowa and now live in the foothills of Denver. So still have a lot of reason to come back to Eastern Iowa, which is partly why this show has been fun to put together. It's a little bit of a homecoming show and really just a fun chance to get back together with Jason and the others that we play with. So the band includes Lynn Curry, who I've sung with a number of times. She's been in every one of our shows. Couple of guys I'm sure you're real familiar with as well, Jeremiah Murphy on bass and Tim Crumley on the drums. So both are folks I've worked with in various shows in the corridor in the past. So I've sung with them in some of Amy Friedel's shows in the past. So yeah, so it's been fun. The Cedar Rapids and Iowa City corridor music community is it's a real tight little insular community. So it's easy to find some very, very talented folks to work with. So
never difficult to find great
no.
musicians to work with you on a fun idea.
Yeah.
So, Jason, AJ comes to you with this eclectic list of songs, and you two have to kind of work together to make them fit the instrumentation, and the other musicians that you have do some arranging on this. Are there ever any that you look at and go, okay, I'm not sure we can do this?
Yeah, that would be 23 out of 24 because they are so different and eclectic. I get this song list and I recognize 2 or 3 tunes, and I think I have so much learning to do. But once I dive into these tunes, they are so magical and wonderful. And I got to tell you that working with Jeremiah and Tim and AJ and Lynn is amazing because there have been some times when we would be working on a tune and nothing was happening, and then somebody would give an idea. The one that comes to me is Africa from the last gig.
Mhm.
Rather than doing the full-on sound that you would expect from that Toto tune, we did it so reduced I played this little guitar thing. We had Tim Crumley scatting some of the solo stuff that was working on. Lynn was playing a split log drum. It was the most simple, just ethereal feel to it, and it was the hit of the show. Nothing like the Toto version.
I'm sure you want to keep some surprises for people when they come to the show, but give us a couple of hints of what you think some of the highlights will be, or things that as you've been working through these arrangements, you've thought, oh, this is going to be a moment.
Before I let AJ actually field that, I'm going to field it with a slightly different answer. The highlight for this show and every one of our other 3 is the stories that AJ tells. Because it isn't just picking the tunes, he weaves this extraordinary set of tales that are poignant, they're hilarious. We have the audience weeping and laughing throughout the entire event. It is an emotional roller coaster led by AJ. So that's one of my favorite things because he doesn't tell us what he's going to say until we are on stage and there's an audience in front of us. And so there have been times that I've been weeping or laughing and trying to play simultaneously.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. One of the reasons why I really love cabaret as an art form is because of the vulnerability and intimacy of the setting. There's no curtain there, and therefore there's no pretense behind it. I'm not a character on a stage acting out a part. There's a certain authenticity that comes from the audience being right there and us being right there as the performers. And I've jokingly told some folks in the past who've said, oh, I totally thought about heckling you. I'm like, no, bring it. Like that makes it interesting. That's what makes this an organic experience, and we'll roll with it. We'll figure out how to crack a joke or whatever. We're not doing original tunes. We're doing sort of original interpretations of them, but by and large, they're covers of some great hits. And so what I find really empowering about it as an art form is that ability to weave these covers into a larger meta narrative, which is why I talked about what the theme of the show was, is because that's what I've tried to infuse into all of this, right? And sort of the thread throughout. So we're going to be doing everything from Bing Crosby. We're opening with a Dixieland number. We're moving into a sort of blue skies jazz standards. I'm going to sing a song in French, which is a first. So getting to leverage my useless skills that I gained in my undergrad degree, because I don't speak a lick of French. So I jokingly say that I could be singing about road construction for all I know. And then the second half is a lot of more what I would say up-tempo numbers. So there's going to be a couple country tunes. We're doing a Guns N' Roses number. And then we're doing a song from one of my favorite bands, which is Dawes, which is an indie folk band. So yeah, so it's this sort of broad paintbrush. And I have yet to find somebody who couldn't find one song that they enjoyed after they walked out of the show. I had one person tell me that I lost them one year when we did a cover of Taylor Swift and Stand By Me mashed together. But yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. So
that was great, actually.
it was a fun tune. So
In My Imagination, Jason Wright and AJ Plummer, along with Lynn Tim and Jeremiah, coming up March 14th and 15th at the Opus Concert Café. Now, as always, when we talk about Opus, of course, it's an awesome room to listen to music, but it is not the largest room in the world. And I'm sure that tickets are going fast on this, so you want to make sure and get yours as quick as possible for one of their shows. artsiowa.com if you would like to get tickets. And gentlemen, thank you so much for being with me today, and good luck with the show.
Thanks.
So much,
Appreciate
man.
you having us. Yeah.
Very grateful to you, man.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio most weekdays at 10:30, on demand at kcck.org/culture, or subscribe using your favorite podcast player. Watch our videos on the KCCK Facebook and YouTube channels. Our producer is Lydia Kilgore. The Culture Crawl theme is composed by Vivian Shanley. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.